pretty safe to say. God give it, God take it away. It's the worldwide American way. I'm living.
What's going on, team? Proof here, and today I'm coming at you with the next squad report, scout report, whatever we want to call it. And hopefully this is the next to last one. Puppy in the back going crazy. But hopefully this is the next to last one, because as of this video there's only like 3 other spike cards that are supposed to be released with the set, and one of which we know is going to be the regular PG. So ideally this is going to be the next to last one, and then I'm going to comb through everything and put together like pros and cons and see how they fit into standard and into premium. But that's for future proof to deal with, and today we're gonna go into this one. So the first card we have is my boy, one of my favorite cards from Spikes, Treasured Black Panther's coming back in full effect. And his skill is auto on rear guard. When it attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, and you can either give it plus 5,000 power or plus 15,000 power at the end of the battle. And then if you give it plus 15,000, it goes into the soul after that battle. So this is really flexible, it's really good, and the ability to Soul Blast the stuff that we put into the soul, either by Bracky or by Gyro Slinger, or like the Bracky Juggernaut Wonder Boy combo, we can get those out of soul, and then potentially Wonder Boy can put them back into your deck for you. That's a really nice interaction that we have there. And being able to get plus 5 or plus 15,000 is also an added flexibility, because 5,000 plus an 8k booster, which the majority of our grade 1s are 8k boosters, hit for 23,000, which forces at least 2 cards from your opponent's hand. It forces either 2 cards or a big critical trigger guard if your opponent is of the force variety. And it also still does it against the Protect and the Excel Vanguards, because they usually are 12,000 power. And against Kagero, you're likely going to be using the plus 15,000 option, because then you can get a lot of pressure on your opponent and then shove it into the soul so they can't retire it. And then do all the stuff where if you have multiple Panthers in the soul, you can Soul Blast a Panther, put it back with Wonder Boy, and then you can make a little mini loop there type of thing if Wonder Boy survives, or you can sequence it with some of your other cards. And next up we have Cheer Girl Frannie, which is grade 0. There's no Forerunners in the V series yet, so she's just a very, what's the term, not vanilla, simple, basic, regular grade 0, that's the word. Her cost is act on rear guard. You can put her into the soul and put a card on the bottom of your deck from your drop zone, and then you can countercharge 1. And even though we don't have a lot of counterblast costs, which that's going to change when I get to a future card that I'm going to show you guys, it's really nice to have that option to be able to put stuff to the bottom of your deck, which is only seen in Sigiswald, which is a grade 3 Uncle Ryzen, which we may not be using because he's kind of not impactful enough when it comes to what you want to have as your grade 3 options. So there's Sigiswald, there's Wonder Boy, which he can't return grade 1s, which you might want to be able to do with some of your other skills, like you may want to put Wonder Boys back to call future Wonder Boys, or yeah, call future Wonder Boys. But Frannie here, being the grade 0, can fit nicely into your deck, maybe as a 1 or 2 of, potentially, depending on what some of the other, if we get another grade 1 that could fill a gap that we need. And then you'll be able to put her into the soul, so you add soul for your future skills, and then you can countercharge 1, which you can still be able to use some of your other skills. So I think she's pretty good. She may fit, she may not fit. It mainly depends on what's remaining. But as of now, with some of the mock lists I've been putting together, I've been able to find space for 1 or 2 of her. So that remains to be seen what's going to become of her once standard is fully fleshed out. And one of the big units you'll be able to use her with when it comes to refunding that cost is our boy, the General. He is back. The art is amazing. His skills are amazing. So let's go ahead and go into it. I'm going to have to go through one at a time. So his first skill is act counterblast 1. Put one of your rear guards into your soul. Search your deck for the same copy of the card you put into the soul and call it to rear guard circle until end of turn. This unit and that unit get plus 10,000 power, and then you shuffle your deck, of course. So the first thing you should know is that this isn't once per turn. So if you have like 3 counter blasts, and you have 3 units you want to shuffle into your, or 3 units you want to call from your deck, you have the ability to spin all 3 counter blasts, and then you can shove those cards into your soul, or one at a time, of course. You can put cards into your soul, call out copies of them, and they all get plus 10,000 power. And then General Seifried here gets plus 30,000 to the end of the turn, which is really good. It's really nice for making power columns. Just be able to try to push your way over the top of your opponent. It combos really well with your Bracky, Jugs, Wonder Boy trio, because they say when they're placed, but not necessarily from hand. So you can shove in a Bracky, call out a Bracky, and if you call Bracky on the 4 circle, Bracky gets plus 10,000 from its own skill, plus 10,000 from General Seifried's skill, and then it gets plus 10,000 from being on the 4 circle. So you have a 40k bunny. And then the same for Juggernaut Maximum becoming 43,000. And then Wonder Boy, you can shove Wonder Boy in and call it back out, and then you could have put a card back to the bottom of your deck, and then that way if you use General Seifried again, you can then shuffle the card Wonder Boy puts back into your deck, which could be a trigger, and then call out another unit. So you thinned your deck out of a normal unit, and then put a trigger back into your deck. So this kind of gives credence to what Spike Brothers are going to be for standard for the first set, which is going to be putting pressure on your opponent, and then thinning your deck out late game while putting massive power on your rear guard circles. That way you can try to push through on your opponent with just destructive power, destructive roar, with just massive destructive power, and just blunt force your way through. I've done some testing with the cards since they've been revealed, and I've had times where I've had like a 58,000 or 58,000 plus column pressuring your opponent, and then having the threat of General Seifried's second ability becoming active, which I'm about to get into in a little bit. But it's good to see, like, just seeing how the things come together. So a lot of people are kind of off-put by the fact that there's not a lot of chain calling, which maybe that changes with whatever remaining cards we're going to be seeing. But it's good that we kind of went from being like an OTK type of thing to having a more steady game, because I didn't really expect to have a lot of chain calling coming from V, because if we have Spikes' G level of calling with 4 circles, like Spikes would just blow everything out the water. And to be able to maintain that balance, we traded in the ability to continuously attack by having continuous power buffs. So we just have to change our mindset around the cards to be able to get the maximum benefit out of them. And I'm excited to be able to go down that road and see what comes of everything. Now, for the second skill, he says when he hits, you can Soul Blast 2, stay in one of your rear guards, and then you choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retires it. And the biggest thing from this is that it's not on hit on Vanguard. So you can make like a 40k bunny, as I talked about before, have the bunny attack Vanguard, and then you can have Seifried attack your opponent's rear guard, which pressures your opponent to block it, because usually their rear guard's gonna be 9,000 power, and it kind of forces the PG out of your opponent's hand. And then if you check any critical triggers, you'll be able to put those onto your remaining rear guard circle, which can be anywhere from like 10,000 to 30,000, depending on if you chain called from there during the main phase, and then put that pressure on your opponent's Vanguard again. And it is really nice interaction to be able to see that stuff come together, because if you use Seifried and then have a Bracky on the board, you, as I mentioned before, attack with the Bracky, and then if you use Seifried on your other rear guard, that rear guard gets plus 10,000 power, and then with all of the new triggers having plus 10,000 power, all of a sudden that rear guard is plus 20,000 and maybe has a critical trigger on it, and your opponent may not be able to block that. So you put you force 2 cards out of your opponent's hand or more, and then you put 2 damage on them because you hit a critical trigger, and that in and of itself is really good. And then if General Seifried hits by chance, then you just stand up the Bracky, and that Bracky's still 40k until the end of the turn. So a lot of pressure, and you can do that as soon as you ride up to grade 3, and that's insane. He is so good. So I appreciate Bushy like just putting a lot of effort into making the cards very synergistic with one another, and then seeing all those pieces come together as more and more cards come out. And last but not least for this video, we have our highest rarity grade 2 that we were blessed to have, which is Spike Bouncer. And his skill says auto on Vanguard or Rear Guard. When he's placed, you can Counter Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Look at the cards from the top of your deck equal to the grade of your Vanguard and call up to 1 from among them, and then put the rest to the bottom. So this is exactly like Gyro Slinger, which minus the cost, of course. But this is one of the first, if not the first, real plus that we've seen from a Spike Brothers card in the series of the game. That first easy plus, I should say. Because just the ability to call him out or ride him as Vanguard and then Counter Blast 1 and Soul Blast and then be able to call a unit from the top just is amazing. And it thins the deck out. And we have a lot of shuffle mechanics to be able to redistribute the card that we put to the bottom or 2. Excuse me, because if you're on a grade 3 or something, and just being able to call out a card that puts pressure on the opponent, and if it's one of our mini cards that gain power, you just get extra value out of that call, which is absurd. And it works on Vanguard, which makes him immediately your primary Vanguard ride, because you'll almost always have a damage to use with him, unless your opponent chooses not to give you that damage, which means you can ride him, use his skill, and then be able to call out from your top 2, because he counts for the Vanguard for the skill, and then maybe hit a Bracky or a Juggernaut or a Panther that I just talked about, and be able to put 15,000 to 20,000, 23,000 on your opponent, which is just massive power that early into the game, which is not unprecedented, but it's unprecedented for Spikes, of course. And then his second skill says auto on Rear Guard. At the end of the battle that it attacked, you can Counter Blast 1 and put this card into the soul and then draw a card. So for the low cost of Counter Blast 2 and Soul Blast 1, you can call a card and then you can refund them as well, which you likely won't be using both of those together at the same time, but you'll split them up depending on your matchup. So the first skill is really good early in the game, being able to put that pressure on your opponent, and it's good against cards that are good against clans that can't necessarily retire your stuff. But the second skill will come in handy against those clans where you want to preserve resources but maintain that aggression on your opponent, most notably against Kagero at the current moment. But on the premium side, if the Spike Bouncer makes it into those decks, you'll be able to use it against the likes of Link Joker to attack for 18,000-ish, depending on boosters, and then you'll be able to tuck it into your deck or into your soul and then draw a card before your opponent gets to do all their lock shenanigans. Really flexible, amazing card, definitely double or triple R worthy. And I love the artwork. I know a lot of people are kind of down on the artwork. I love like the whole, he's made an impact on the field and like smoke, and then maybe there's bodies around that he just got done demolishing. I really enjoy the artwork. I love the flavor of it, and I really enjoyed old Spike Bouncer skill, which was an on hit type of thing way back like 5 years ago back maybe longer, like 5 or 6, but I enjoyed that. So I'm glad to see him come back with a much improved skill, and him being in the deck makes Frannie that much more of an interesting option to think about, just because you may call Frannie off the top, so you've put 16,000 power worth of cards onto the field for the cost, and then sometime in the future you can use Frannie to get that counter charge back, or get that counter blast back from maybe your Seifried skill or something like that. And this card effectively makes Zachary null and void for Spikes, because there's not enough space, and I don't think the redundancy of Zachary is good enough, because Zachary is an 8,000 power card versus what Spike Bouncer, Bracky, Panther, all those are going to probably be your primary grade 2 targets. So it kind of put the nail in the coffin for Zachary, as sad as I am about that. But I'm definitely okay with that, because we got such an amazing card. So that'll do it for this video. I hope you enjoy. Hope you're as excited for Spikes as I am, because all these cards are amazing, and we have a couple more cards to go, so there's only up from here, ideally. So hope you enjoy. Look out for more, and until next time, peace. Be easy.